All right, here we are with Alex Alonso, Street TV. Let's run it down. Day 3 of Eric People versus Eric Holder. What can you tell us?
Sir. This is the third full day of witness testimony, and we started off the morning with that would have been witness number 6, and witness number 6 would have been a police officer named Timmermans, who just basically testified about looking for surveillance video in the neighborhood. And Timmermans was responsible for acquiring the footage inside of the Master Burger. And then he was only on the stand for a few minutes. And then another LAPD officer named Zaragoza, Frank Zaragoza, he was witness 7. He testified about acquiring footage from a residence that's at the end of the alley on 58th. The footage from that residence will show any car leaving or entering that alley. And he was on the stand. But the first big stand, the witness of the day, he was on the stand for just a few minutes. No cross-examination from the defense. The first main witness of the day was Shermy Villanueva. This is Kerry Latham's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
He was witness number 8. So what would you like to know about his testimony? He was on the stand for quite a while, and this is the first witness that the defense attorney cross-examined.
So explain a little bit to the people who he was. He was, I think he was shot at, and it ricocheted off his belt, I believe.
Yeah, he sustained what was called a superficial gunshot wound to his abdomen area right above the belt line. And he said his belt buckle prevented the bullet from penetrating his stomach. So that injury did create a little bit of blood. There was a photo of him lifting up his shirt that was taken from the LAPD body cam that did show some bleeding in that area. They put him in one of those like stretcher chairs that the ambulance has, but then he refused any sort of medical treatment and he did not go to the hospital.
Okay. Is there any critical that he had said on the stand?
He said that he was standing. Well, he gave us the positions of where everyone was standing at. So Nipsey Hussle was standing against the car that was closest to the Marathon store. Kerry Latham was standing against the second car that was parked there. And both Kerry and Nipsey were facing each other. And Mr. Villanueva, Kerry Latham's nephew, was standing to the outside of them, sort of creating like this triangle between them three. So when Eric Holder came between those two white cars, Villanueva was right in the line of fire of his shooting.
Right. What was the next witness after that?
The next witness, just real quickly, he said that he heard the gunshot and he saw Nipsey Hussle fall to the ground, and then he said he ran out of the parking lot, going north out of the west entrance, turned the building, and waited till the gunfire subsided, and then came back to where Nip and Kerry Latham were laying on the ground. And he said that his uncle was on the ground screaming, saying, "I got shot too, I got shot too." And that was pretty much it. You could tell he didn't want to be there. He was very short with his answers. He was very quiet. He had a real low-key demeanor. He didn't really go into any details. He had to be pressed for information. And I believe he was there on subpoena. So I think the court was lucky that this guy showed up in the first place.
Right.
And that's pretty much it with Villanueva. The defense attorney cross-examined him just basically about how serious his injury was. The defense attorney wanted to show that your injury wasn't that serious. and just trying to let the jury, because he wants the jury to believe that there should not be any attempted murders attached to the shooting against Nip. So one of the attempted murders is actually against Villanueva. It's one against him and one against his uncle Kerry Latham. Those are the two additional charges that Eric Holder is facing.
Right. Okay.
So that was pretty much it for Villanueva. And then after he testified, there was a real interesting witness named Ingrid Caston, Caston. She's the one that actually brought Cowboy the food, his lunch. So when you look at the footage and you look at some of the photos that we're seeing in court, Cowboy's actually holding his food. In fact, when Nip came, he was just getting his food from this girl that was parked in the car in front of Masterburger. So she was sitting in the car the entire time, and she was actually recording Nipsey, Rimpaw, and Cowboy while they were standing in front of the two white cars for a bit. And she actually says she saw Eric. She saw Eric before the shooting. She saw Eric run right by her car after the shooting. And she pretty much eyewitnesses Eric as the shooter.
Wow. Okay. What did the defense cross-examine her?
The defense, what did the defense have to say? Yes, the defense did cross-examine her. Really nothing too serious came out. One of the questions that they were trying to figure out is, did he have a shirt on? Eric Holder. Did he have a shirt on? Did he have a shirt on? She actually testified that when Eric Holder returned, he was wearing a red hoodie. And I'm not so sure if that's accurate. I thought he was wearing just a red shirt, but I'm not sure if it was a hoodie or just a shirt. But there was a lot of questions on when did you see him without the shirt? When did you see him with the shirt? Because she testified that she noticed him immediately in the parking lot because he was the only guy walking around with no shirt on, and she thought that was kind of unusual. But there was really nothing too major that came out with her on cross-examination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
the star of the witness.
Then after her was the star witness. Did you have any other questions on Ingrid?
No. Anything you think we should know? Let the people know.
I don't think there's anything else. She wasn't on the stand that long. She did record, and she got some interesting video. She probably has some of the last footage of Nipsey Hussle alive, because she was shooting a little video moments before Eric Holder came back and started shooting.
So they showed this video. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They showed screen captures of the video, but they didn't play the entire video. But the video that she shot is about 2 minutes and 15 seconds long, and it was entered in as an exhibit. So the jury will have that when they deliberate if they want to watch it, if they feel like it's important. But I think it's important because it's the last footage. I believe it's the last footage of Nipsey before he gets shot that exists. She shot it on her cell phone.
How does it look clear? Like, I know, how does it look? Like, does it look?
No, it doesn't look that clear because she had the windows up in the car. So she's shooting from inside the car through the glass. I mean, it's clear enough that we could say, oh, well, that's Nip, but not anything that's professional quality, unfortunately.
You think we're able to get your this footage will be public after this case is over?
Absolutely. All the footage from this trial will become public after the trial is over, unless the judge seals it. But I don't see any reason at this time why he would seal any of these exhibits.
Right. I would have thought if it was shot good, it could have been like some valuable footage.
No, the only value is that it's the last. I believe I don't think there's any other footage of Nip that was shot after that of him alive, because only a matter of a minute or two passes until Eric Holder is back there in front of the Masterburger shooting at Nip. So,
Yeah.
so she has the last video footage probably ever shot of Nipsey Hussle alive, and then the next witness, who's our star witness, perhaps has the last still photo ever taken of Nipsey Hussle, and that's the girl who drove with Eric Holder up to the Marathon parking lot, and her name is Briannita Nicholson. And she was on the stand for all of the afternoon, and they didn't even finish with her today.
Wow. Now this is a witness that's gotten a lot of flack on the internet, that's been viewed as being part of his killing, or his you know what I mean? So what can you tell us? Break it down. Give us the whole thing, man.
Okay, well, they met in January. In fact, they met on February 25th, 2019. So they only knew each other for just over a month. So this is a very short relationship.
Yeah.
They did have an intimate relationship, but the intimacy only happened one time in that entire month. She's from she lives in Long Beach. She's originally from LA, but she moved out of state when she was a kid and then moved back to LA. So some people were saying that she's actually from the South, but originally she was actually born in LA. And they started hanging out. Her and Eric Holder started hanging out right after that Lyft. She's a Lyft driver at the time. And after she picked them up and dropped them off in Long Beach, they just started hanging out pretty much like almost every day, at least 3, 4, 5 times a week.
So is it safe to say there was already a sexual relationship, or no?
Yeah, but they only had sex one time.
Oh, okay.
So when asked about how serious the relationship was, she just called him a friend. She was like, he was a homeboy, a friend, but we did have sex one time. So I think she had a liking for Eric, because whenever Eric called, whenever he reached out to her during this 1 month, she was there for him. He was like, hey, let's go get something to eat. Sure, let's go. And let's go get dinner. Sure, let's go. And what's interesting, she paid for every single date they went on. Red Lobster, she paid. There was another restaurant they went to, she paid. And even at the Master Burger, on the day Nipsey gets killed, he had to go back to the car and borrow a few dollars to cover the cost of what he was ordering in the Master Burger. So at some point, I think Eric Holder was just, she was there for convenience, at least.
Right. Damn, I never had a girl pay for my food ever in life.
I think it's pretty bold that you meet a girl and you barely know her for a month and you got her paying for everything.
That's heavy pimping right there, you know?
No doubt about it.
You got paying everything.
Your words, not mine.
Yeah.
But let's see. So she got to meet his family, which was an uncle. She hung out with him at a couple recording sessions at a makeshift music studio in the apartment. So over this month period, she just got to know him, was hanging out, going places. And she did testify that she saw him with a gun on previous occasions. So there was some testimony that she knew he had a gun and she had seen him with a gun on multiple occasions, more than once.
Now, what did she say about that day, that moment of where all went down, where all went down of Eric?
Okay. So on the day it went down, which would have been March 31st, she testified that Eric Holder called her up. In fact, she said that he had been calling her up multiple times, but she didn't answer his phone call. I think she was working or she was doing Lyft. And eventually she decided to answer his call, and he was like, hey, I wanna hang out. Let's go get something to eat. And she agrees, and she ends her Lyft job earlier than she planned on doing it. And she goes, picks him up. And then also every time they go on a date and they hang out, it's her driving, picking him up. every single time.
Heavy pimp.
There you go. And on that day, they were supposed to go get some food at he wanted In-N-Out. So she went to go pick him up so they can get In-N-Out, and they decided let's go to LA because he was living in Long Beach at the time. And then they drove to LA. She wanted to go to the Slauson swap meet, which is right there on Slauson, literally right down the street from Crenshaw and Slauson. But I don't think they ever made it to the swap meet. And then she ends up saying, "Hey, what do you want to eat?" And he says, "You know what? Let's just go get a Master Burger." So
she said,
"No." He says, "Let's just get Master Burger."
Oh God.
Yeah, because initially the plan was to go get In-N-Out. So they go from going to get In-N-Out to Master Burger. Actually, and before they pulled up at the Marathon parking lot, she testified that a couple blocks away from the Marathon store, Eric Holder had her drive to like a spot where some of the homies from 60s was hanging out at. And he was there for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then that's when they had the conversation, "What do you want to eat?" And then he just says, "You know what, since we're over here in the area, let's just go to Master Burger." So they were already in the area visiting some other unidentified people from the hood. And then they end up going to Master Burger right after that.
So tell us, how did she notice Nip? Were they in the car already? Did she get out?
They noticed Nip she notices Nip while they're in the car. So they pull into the Marathon parking lot from the Slauson entrance that's west. There's 2 entrances on Slauson to the parking lot. So they entered from the west side, the west entrance. So when you enter that entrance, immediately you see Nip and the guy standing there by the 2 white cars. So as soon as she pulls in, she's like, "Oh shoot, Nipsey Hussle's here." So she pulls in, makes a left, and tries to find parking, but doesn't. And if you look at some of the video footage from the Shell gas station, you see her white car just parked in the middle of the parking lot. And then you see Eric Holder exit the car. But when he exits, he goes to Master Burger first.
What did she say happened after that?
So while he's in Master Burger, when he comes out of Master Burger, he goes over to Nip, Cowboy, and Rimpaw, and she notices that, and she's thinking to herself, because she made a comment in the car like, "Oh wow, there goes Nipsey. He's fine." She actually said this on the stand that she acknowledged that he's so fine. And
I'm sorry to cut you, but what's Eric's expression? Did he have any expression on his face while she's there, giving her testimony?
No, he's very quiet. There's and he's not too expressive when it comes to the facial expressions. He's just a quiet defendant sitting right next to his attorney.
Okay, and continue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for stopping. Go ahead.
So she makes a comment about Nipsey being fine, and there's no response from Eric. He, once they pull into the parking lot, he goes to Master Burger. But she notices after he leaves the Master Burger, he walks over to Nip, and she's saying, "Oh man, he's going over to get a photograph with Nipsey Hussle. Let me get a photograph too." Because Eric has not even acknowledged that, "Oh yeah, I know him," this entire time. So she's just thinking he's walking over there as a fan. So when she gets over there, she hears that they have a conversation, and that she hears the snitch conversation, and she actually uses the word snitch.
Wow.
So that's a little different from the way Cowboy told the conversation.
Right. Wow. That's some shit, bro. That is some shit. What does that tell? What does this mean? What does that tell you, man? Cowboy, I don't think he has a very good memory,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you that much. I don't know if he's a snitch or not, but he definitely could be forgetting some things,
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, kind of. It all goes to credibility. Who do you believe? Who do you think is telling the most accurate story? Who has who has to gain something from telling a story a certain kind of way. But she clearly says that she heard a conversation about snitching, and after she took her selfie with Nip, she walked back to the car and Eric stood behind. So she only caught a quick glimpse, well, not a glimpse, but she caught a quick listening of that conversation, and she clearly heard the word snitching.
Okay. Go to the next.
Okay, so then at some point, the conversation ends between Eric and Nip, and he goes back to the Master Burger. He gets his fries. He jumps in the car, and they drive out of the park. They go through that alley, which is east of the building where the Master Burger, the tax place, they go through that alley to 58th. Then she makes a right turn, and all these turns that she's doing is at his direction. So he's saying, hey, go through this alley, go make this turn here. So she makes a right on 58th, which is the street right behind the whole strip mall. And then they make another right to come back to Slauson. And then once they make another right on Slauson and come back in front of the store, she testified that she looked at Eric Holder, and he's loading up a magazine to his semi-automatic weapon. He's actually putting bullets in the magazine as they're as they're coming down Slauson. And she says something about, hey, what are you doing? You're not going to shoot no gun out of my car. And he complies to her request. And he says, okay. And then he tells her to make another right turn on Crenshaw, and then make another right turn into the parking lot where the Fat Burger's at. And they park the car in the alley right there by the Fat Burger. And guess what they do at this time? He starts to eat his meal. Remember, he just ordered some chili cheese fries from Master Burger. So he tells the girl, Miss Nicholson, we'll just park right here in the alley and let me just eat my food. And she's like, okay, no problem. So they're parked in the alley over by the Fat Burger where the car is pointing towards 58th Street. And he begins to eat his chili cheese fries. And she says after about 2 or 3, I guess, servings of eating the chili cheese fries, he tells her, wait here, I'll be right back. And that's when he leaves. And that's when everything happens. Right after he leaves, we all know he goes to the front and opens fire on Nipsey Hussle.
Okay, for the people that don't know, how far is that Fat Burger from the where Nip is at?
Okay, so the Shell gas station is adjacent to the strip mall where the Marathon store is at. So there's an alley that separates the strip mall and the gas station, and the Fat Burger is on the south side of the gas station. So it's that close. He walks past the Master Burger and shoots Nipsey between the 2 white cars that are there. And everyone's seen the footage of that. And then he runs. What's interesting, he kind of runs into the parking lot when he leaves after the shooting. After he kicks Nipsey in the head, he runs into the parking lot a little bit, and then he runs between 2 cars, and then back past the Master Burger, and then goes into the alley. And when he ran between the 2 cars, remember the girl that was sitting in the car, Ingrid, he runs right by her while she's sitting in the car. And then he makes a right at the alley, and then he jumps in the car and tells her, let's go, let's go. And then that's when she immediately says, what happened? I heard gunshots. What's going on? And that's when he says, just go or I'm going to slap you. And then she drives off.
Well, let me ask you this before you continue. Might as well ask you now. So he had said when they left the Master Burger, he was already in the car and loading his gun, right? So at that point, he already had decided that he was going to kill him. He was going to shoot him, right?
You could opine that when he told her to drive all the way around again, he may have made that decision, but he didn't shoot. he just started loading his magazine. But she did testify that he had picked up the gun and was holding it like out the window, like he was getting ready to shoot. So yeah, you could argue at that moment he had made a decision to shoot, but then he tells her to pull up by the Fat Burger and park in the alley there so I could eat my fries. So maybe at that point he changed his mind. I don't know.
Wow.
But then we know after he took about 2 or 3 servings of his chili cheese fries, he told her, "Wait here, I'll be right back." So maybe, you could argue that could be a premeditated plan.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What else did she say after that?
She said that she didn't see him leave with the gun when they were sitting in the car eating. Well, when he was eating the chili cheese fries, she said he just got out the car and said, "I'll be right back. Don't leave." So she didn't see any gun in his hand or anything of the sort. So the only time she saw the gun is when he was loading it when they were driving around, but then he put it away when he was eating.
Right. Okay. And what did they do? They just drive off, go home like nothing ever happened?
They drove off and they went to her mother's house. And she dropped him off at his relative's house, a guy named Harold. We don't have his last name. Some guy named Harold that's related to Eric Holder. And then she goes to her mom's house. But then she testified that a little bit later, Eric had called her and said, "Hey, can I come over?" And she said, "No, because I'm not at my apartment. I'm at my mom's house." And then he said, "Well, can I come over to your mom's house?" And she said, "Sure." And this is all after everything has happened. So he goes over to mom's house. Mom is at work, and he ends up spending the night at Miss Nicholson's mom's place on March 31st.
Wow. Are you okay when you listen to this? Are you just glued to what she's telling you? What she's saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to listen to everything she's saying. Trying to see if there's any inconsistencies in her story. Trying to see if she's credible. Trying to see what level of sincerity she gives off, and everything seems pretty normal. I remember the prosecutor had asked her, "Why did you pay for all the dates?" She's like,
"Heavy pimping."
She said, "I don't know. Sometimes she just didn't have an answer."
Right.
But then after he spent the night at Miss Nicholson's mom's place, she has to go to work the next day. She also has another job outside of Lyft. She does home care and just caring for I guess elderly people. She didn't really go into details, but she had to go to that job in the morning. That would have been Monday morning, and Eric can't stay there because that's mom's place. So then he asked her, "Can you get me a motel? Can you get me a room?" And she helps him get a room.
What the fuck?
She does.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. She helps him get a room. And it's not until we haven't gotten to the testimony where she finds out that Eric was the shooter, that the police are looking for him, and that her car was at the scene of the crime. So she's actually still on the stand under the prosecution, under direct, and she's going to come back tomorrow morning and continue her testimony. So we're probably just, I'd say about 75% through her direct, because she has taken us to the point to where she had to get Eric Holder a motel room the next day after spending the night at her mom's.
Mm-hmm. And you told me off camera, you believe that she's vindicated. What do you mean by that? Tell us, why do you say that?
Oh, well, what I mean is that there is nothing in this investigation. There is nothing in her testimony. There's absolutely nothing that she aided and abetted, that she knew what Eric Holder was going to do, that she's part of a conspiracy, that she assisted in a homicide. She's just completely naive throughout this whole entire journey. So I know there's going to be a lot of people that say she's the getaway driver.
Right.
Well, you're not a getaway driver unless you're a part of the crime, you know, or you can say Eric used her as a getaway driver, perhaps.
Correct. And there's a reason why. I mean, even there was a cop that said, "I love putting people in prison," and she was interrogated for more than 4 hours or something, right?
Correct. I spoke to one of the detectives that interrogated her for 4 hours, and this is a cop that has he has no problem putting a woman like her in jail. You know, he has no problem putting a case on her. But after he fully investigated it, after she turned over all her cell phone records, after she allowed the police to come and search her mom's place, she did everything that you could possibly do in terms of cooperating with an investigation. And she did it without the presence of an attorney. So she also gave her car. She said, "Here's my car. You could, you know, look through it as much as you want." So she did not hesitate to assist law enforcement in this investigation. And she's the one that went to the police initially. She found out that her car was on the news, but that testimony hasn't come out yet. She'll probably testify about that tomorrow morning.
Right. And for the people wondering why she isn't in jail, Alex just told you why. I'm just saying, some people are fucking slow. You know?
She actually testified that after they left, it did cross her mind that maybe Eric did shoot, but she wasn't sure if he shot, because the drive. This was kind of interesting. After he comes back and gets in the car and says, "Drive off, or I'm gonna slap you," she asked what happened, like maybe 2 times, and he said something like, "You asked too many questions, or you talk too much." And the whole drive to Long Beach was quiet. She just realized that I'm not getting anywhere asking this guy questions about what just happened. And so she just stopped asking him questions. Yeah, there was a selfie photo that was shown as one of the exhibits that Miss Nicholson took with Nipsey shortly after they arrived. So when they first arrived, that's when she was parked in the middle of the parking lot. She took a picture with Nip, walked over there. She had to testify when she walked over there. She asked someone else that was with Nip, either Cowboy or Rimpaw, "Hey, can I take a picture with Nip?" And they said, "Yeah, give him a minute." And then eventually Nip said, "All right, let's take this picture." And you could tell she had a big smile on her face. She's standing in the front. Nip is kind of behind her. And when she went back to the car after taking that picture, now this is right after she heard the snitch conversation. She testified that she heard snitching, the word snitching thrown around a few times. As soon as she went back to the car, she posted that picture to her Facebook page, letting all her followers know that, "Hey, I'm over here posted up with Nipsey Hussle." So she was really happy and excited to even meet Nip. So, this woman had nothing to do with his demise whatsoever.
Being said, since you heard her testimony, that part, do you think that gave Nip, even though she didn't hear the whole conversation, but she heard the word snitch go around back and forth, was that all it took for Eric to do what he did to Nip?
I think that when you accuse someone of snitching from the streets, especially a guy with a reputation like Eric Holder, from what I understand, he was a known shooter. When you throw a snitch allegation at that type of guy, there's a high probability that guy is going to come back and do something aggressive. So, yeah, snitching allegations are very serious. To put a snitch jacket on somebody and somebody's a shooter, that's a pretty dangerous game to play.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this: if she wasn't there, if she wasn't present, do you think he would have? That's hard to say, but do you think he would have did what he did?
I don't see. I don't think he did what he did had anything to do with her. I believe that this was solely a result of how he felt after that conversation about snitching and paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's other theories about her saying that Nipsey Hussle's fine, could have been a trigger, or the conversation that Eric Holder had about his music and no one seemed to be interested in his music. That may have been a trigger, but I think that this was solely a result of that conversation about paperwork and snitching.
Could you think a combination of all that?
You could, if you argued that, I wouldn't challenge it. It could have been a combination of all of that. Depending on what the level of instability that Mr. Holder has, depending on if he was under the influence of any sort of narcotic, if he was popping a pill, if he was on a Xanny, it could have been a combination of everything. But I do think that the snitch conversation, the snitch allegation is really the catalyst to all of this.
Right.
Let me just in terms of the conversation that Miss Nicholson heard, one of the quotes she gave was Eric saying, "Did you say I'm a snitch?" That's Eric speaking to Nip, based on what Miss Nicholson testified to today. So that's pretty clear, cut and dry, right?
Right. Oh, you still, because it kind of froze. Did she say anything of the tone? Were they yelling back and forth? Was there any that kind of energy of between Nip and Eric?
No, the prosecution asked that exact question, and she said that it wasn't an argument, it wasn't hostile. She said that Eric did get a little. She used the word stern, but other than that, it wasn't an argument. It wasn't a fight. It was just a discussion.
Right. Wow. I did hear one thing. I'm not sure if this is correct, because people think the whole Eric and Nip thing could have been something more as far as like some tensions before then. Like supposedly Nip was messing with the same girl Eric was at one point, or I don't know how. Is that all? I don't know how true that is. Is this all folklore, or what do you say? What do you have to say about that?
I mean, if something like that is true, it would be very difficult for that to come in as evidence, because somebody would have to present that. That had to come through a witness, and there's not a lot of witnesses that are cooperating with this case. So it could be true. It may be not true. But you definitely would need a witness to come in and confirm that story.
Right.